Hello and welcome to this week's Travel Talk show. I am so glad that you've taken the time to join us. I hope the weather is nice where you are. It's really hot here in Southern Ontario today, so it's nice to be inside with the air conditioning. I want to start off by first just mentioning if anyone was on last week's show, tried to join last week's show, and ran into our issues that we had. We're so sorry. I had a power failure and all the slides, everything are here on my computer, and we couldn't do much about it. I think Kirsten tried to scramble and at least let everybody know that that's what was happening, and she ended up having to call me on my phone. And
you had to phone a show in.
I did, and it didn't work very well. So I am so glad if you tried last week and you're back joining us this week. We really appreciate that, and I'm so sorry. So I will introduce myself.
Thank you.
I'm Marianne with the Women's Travel Club. I am the founder of the Women's Travel Club, and I am in charge of marketing. And this is Kirsten, and she is in charge of guest relations. So her job is to make sure that everyone that travels with us has a fabulous time. Well, that's pretty much everybody's job at the Women's Travel Club, but it's specifically her job to make sure. And my job is just
while you're on the tour.
Everybody kind of knows what is coming up.
I like how, you know what, Marianne, I like how you explained it to me once. Once you're on the tour, that's my job, to make sure that everything that happens to you happens as smoothly as possible. Pre-tour, that's your job.
Yes. Well, pre-tour is kind of Debbie's job.
Okay.
It's like a timeline. It's like I'm before tours, just learning about stuff. Once you're booked on a tour, it's Debbie's job. Once you're on the tour, you're Kirsten's baby. So you just kind of move along a little timeline.
Yes, move along the assembly line.
So let's get started with today's show. I've been very excited about today's show. And today we're going to look at 5 of our most unusual destinations that we have coming up for 2021. I love this because I love the unusual and the different. So these are all destinations that are very much on my radar that I think are very cool.
Me too. Me too.
There we go. So why we're talking about these destinations are just to give you an idea of what's out there that's maybe a little different. So some tours that you haven't previously really thought of, or you see the destination and it's like, oh, okay, but it doesn't really strike you. A lot of the women that travel with us are very well traveled. They've seen a lot of kind of the main kind of destinations and tourist areas in the world, and are looking for something a little bit better. Or maybe you're just someone that's a little bit new to traveling but still interested in kind of what's out there that's different, what's going to be like a little bit cool to go see.
And even there's a lot of our ladies who've traveled to locations even that are off the beaten path that still have that still needs a challenge, and maybe some of these will appeal to them.
Yeah, something a little bit new, a little bit different.
Maybe.
One of the great benefits of looking at destinations that aren't, middle of Rome or the Eiffel Tower, or, Machu Picchu or anything like that, something a little bit different, is that you're not going to get the same tourist crowds. So if you're someone that kind of isn't keen on big crowds and wants something a little quieter, then these might also be destinations that kind of catch your eye. And
that's true.
That might even fit in with kind of our travel environment right now. You might not want next year to go somewhere that's super crowded, so you might want to go somewhere that's you're going to be just with your little group and not really see many others. So there can be a lot of reasons that these destinations might appeal to you, or you know what, they might not. You might just be interested in seeing what they are. So that is definitely a possibility too. Okay, so we're going to start with number 5. So I will introduce these destinations with just a few little points about the destination. So you can kind of in your mind see if you can guess from the clues what the destination might be. We will wait till the end.
How did you pick the, sorry, how did you pick the order of these, Marianne?
They are actually in order of number of visitors per year. So they're actually in kind of a logical order of number 5 is going to get the most visitors of our top 5, and number 1 will get the least number of visitors per year. So that's how we kind of rated them.
Gotcha.
And so these are visitors coming from worldwide going to that destination.
Okay, thank you.
And so see, we will save questions to the end. You can ask questions along the way, just type them into the question and answer box, which for most of us will be at the bottom of the screen. You can just press that Q&A box and type them in, or type them into the chat. Kirsten will see them and bring them up. At the end, we can open up for online questions if you want to come on camera or talk online and say the question. If we do it ahead of time, it breaks up the presentation. But if you do have a question along the way, just type it into your question and answer box or the chat, and Kirsten will see that.
Marianne, sorry, do you want me to save the questions as well to the end, or bring them up as we go?
No, you can bring them up as we go.
Okay,
just,
so as we
keep them kind of, relevant to what we're talking about. Yeah. But yeah, so anything, if you think of something, just do that and we'll try and monitor it and catch. Okay, so here we go with number 5. Number 5 gets just over 2 million visitors per year. It is a hot spot for adventure travelers. The food is incredible. Spanish is the language that is spoken. And this, I think, will give it away for most people. It encompasses the Amazon jungle, the Andean highlands, and the rich wildlife of the Galapagos Islands. And so, if you thought Ecuador, you would be right. And specifically, we're going to talk, yeah, we should have prizes. Specifically, we're going to talk about mainland Ecuador. So, of course, Galapagos Islands is a big, area that most people know of. If you've never traveled there, you might know of the Galapagos Islands and think of that as like a bucket list kind of trip. But mainland Ecuador has a lot to offer and isn't always included in a Galapagos tour, so it might be an area you might be interested in. We do have Galapagos for next year, but this is like a different tour after the Galapagos if you're interested. And you can see it's in South America. It's right here, just kind of just at the top of South America, right on the coast, obviously, where the Galapagos are. Okay, so for Ecuador, pardon?
Oh, I'm sorry, Marianne. That's a beautiful slide.
Oh, you didn't like the slide?
No, I love it. It's beautiful.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do for Ecuador is I'm going to just go through a handful of kind of major attractions that might interest someone, and some of the top reasons to kind of visit mainland Ecuador. The Otavalo markets, which I know from previous tours I've been on, that we definitely have women that would be interested in the Otavalo markets. They are.
I think I need to bring more money. I haven't even, I don't even know which ton, and I already need to bring more money.
More money. More money. It is the largest market in Latin America. You'll notice a lot of the product. not everything, but the majority of the products you're going to see in the market, it's all stalls, very market-like, are going to be handmade products. And typically they're handmade from like wool that is spun, that is dyed, that is then woven into to make textiles and then used to make other things. And also carvings, these little pottery people, you'll see all kinds of things, and they're all pretty much handmade, which is really, when I go visit somewhere, if I can bring something home that I know was actually made there, it wasn't made in China and just distributed to every tourist area, if it's actually something made where I am, that to me is special, and that is something I like to buy and bring home. So definitely the markets will be very interesting. And
to be fair, unless they're going to China, and in which case,
I mean, yeah, if you go to China, you definitely would like something made in China.
Not to state the obvious, but there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. And weaving is a huge part of what they do. It's part of their customs, and goes back to a lot of their culture. And so you'll learn about weaving definitely when you're at the market, and maybe even get to try your hand at weaving. Here's one of our members working on weaving.
Yay!
So it's always fun to try something hands-on too. I really
did it.
like. Yeah. Yay. Okay, so moving on from the markets, we're going to talk about the Amazon jungle, which also Ecuador is borders on the Amazon. It's one of the countries that you can go to the Amazon from. We have another tour that actually is from Peru, goes to the Amazon from Peru. So there are different places to kind of get into the Amazon and see it, but Ecuador is definitely one of them, and a great place to go. It's, everybody knows about the Amazon, but it's one of the most biodiverse places on the planet. The bird watching paradise. You see all kinds of birds, including toucans and macaws and parrots. It still has indigenous tribes. So there's 3 main indigenous tribes from Ecuador: the Quechua, the Shuar, and the Huani. And the Quechua are said to be the most powerful of the Amazon shamans. The Shuar they're the head hunters. So you can, yes?
Marianne, sorry to interrupt. We just have a question from Carol. What are the green ponds? Or I think she referring to the
those are lily pads.
The lily pads.
Yes, those are huge lily pads. Everything in Amazon, like Africa, is bigger. So those are big, huge lily pads.
Big lily pads. Thank you. Wow. This is Carol's answer. Yes. Okay. Sorry, please. Carry on.
No, that's awesome.
Indeed.
So the Shuar, they're head hunters. And if you've been to the Amazon, it is something that used to be done there. They used to get the heads of their enemies and shrink them, and they believe that it would give them power over women. So that's lovely. And it's been outlawed, thank goodness. They can't, chop off the heads of their enemies and shrink them anymore. But they still do it with sloths. So yeah, I don't know how I feel about that, but that is.
Aww.
I know, it's something.
Well, that's not nice.
I know, it's not very nice at all.
It's not nice at all. The answer is not to cut off a different.
Yeah, I know. The answer should be not to cut any heads. And just
exactly. Don't cut any heads. Do something else. Yes, do something else.
And the Huani are a warrior tribe. So that's our 3 tribes in the Amazon.
I suppose that's pretty ethnocentric of me to put my values of
I
not
know, but
headhunting
I
onto
can't help but agree. But yes, yeah, and
it's
but
just
you
lost.
know, it is
Okay.
something to know, right? Like it was their culture, it was what they did, and
But you know what?
learning
I'm
about their
actually not
culture.
offended. And it doesn't, it offends me less that they would cut a human head off than a sloth head.
Okay, well, I
Isn't
don't
that
know if
awful?
that's a good thing to say either.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, moving on.
Moving on. Indeed.
Okay, so the Amazon was actually first discovered in Ecuador. A group of Spanish conquistadors left Quito in search of the legendary city of El Dorado. Eventually, they found the Amazon River and they followed it all the way out to the Atlantic. And along the way, they saw these fierce native women and they named the river Amazon after them. So it's named after women and it started in Ecuador. Another really cool, this is probably the area that I think, well, I like the jungle, so I really like the Amazon, but this is really cool too. And they have great hot springs, and the best kind of town for hot springs is a town called Papalacta. And it's all because of the volcanic, there's extinct and there's probably still alive volcanoes there. And the volcanoes heat the underground springs, and then the springs carry extra minerals, and they're very good for your skin and beneficial for health. So this area is just renowned for these beautiful hot springs. And a lot of the hotels have been built around hot springs. So this is actually a hotel that we stay in. And so the whole pool area is just like your own hot springs area. Yeah, I just think it's beautiful.
Wow. Stunning.
Another big draw for Ecuador is adventure. They have a small town called Banos de Aquasanta, which is famous for all of its adventure activities. It's surrounded by mountains, rivers, and waterfalls and hot springs, and all of that just comes together to make a recipe for amazing adventure sports. So if you're into adventure, this would be a really good place. So you think it's similar to like Costa Rica, places like that, but just maybe a little bit more there. And so you'll see things like whitewater rafting, zip lining, horseback riding. If you're really crazy, bungee jumping, which I wouldn't do, but I'm sure there's people that would. More power to them. They're so brave.
Yeah. Well, there's the bungee jumping.
Yeah. So, and all kinds of other things, canyoning and mountain biking and paragliding, and pretty much if there's an adventure sport you can think of, because of just the, you know, climate, the mountains, the way the terrain is really become a hot spot, and they do a little bit of everything.
Nice.
Okay, so that is about Ecuador. I don't know if anybody has any specific questions on Ecuador, but it's really, you know, it's kind of got a lot to offer in a small area. And another thing to know is it's really cheap. So if you're looking for an inexpensive tour, just with, you know, the way their economy is and the pricing there, the tours are really reasonable. So it's a good option if you're looking for something kind of cool and different, and yet still in a good price point.
Yeah, you don't always think of Ecuador as an Amazonian place.
No,
At least I don't. So that's
no, you
interesting.
think of Brazil and Peru and places like that, but yeah, for sure. And it's nice because the trip, it's not huge. Like when we do Amazon from Peru, we're flying there because it's so spread out and it takes so long to get there. When we do it, like the Amazon, so on one tour, we're doing just an easy drive to get, you know, into the Amazon, into where the thermal baths are, into, you know, Banos and doing the adventure activities. And one little easy tour gives you all of that, which is pretty cool too.
Nice. Yeah, that's very cool.
Okay, so we're gonna go to number 4. So number 4 is probably top of my list right now. So I'm sure everybody cares where I want to go. But if anybody does, number 4 is top of my list. Okay, number 4 gets about 1.5 million visitors a year, but only about 22,000 of those are from Canada and the US. It's the 3rd largest island in the world. It has the oldest rainforest. It has some of the world's biggest caves. It has over 100 endemic animals, which I think is so cool. And it's one of the 2 places in the world where you can see orangutans, which I think probably gave it away to most people. And we're going to the island of Borneo, which is in Asia. It's in like Southeast Asia, kind of Malaysia area. It's actually, the island is like 3 countries kind of in it. Brunei, Malaysia, I forget the other one. Obviously not in my notes, that's from memory, kind of. But yes, so the climate's going to be hot and humid, very Malaysian. And for Borneo, what we're going to do is talk about some of the endemic animals. A couple of these aren't endemic on the list, but a lot of them are, and they're all definitely animals that are a little bit unique that you would see in the beautiful, beautiful island Borneo.
Leslie, thank you, Leslie. Leslie says Indonesia is the 3rd country in Borneo.
Oh, thank you. Yay.
Of course. I'm like thinking, my God, we should know this.
I know. I was like,
Yes.
You know, it's hard sometimes when you're talking and it's
is.
like, oh, I got to remember this, I got to remember that. And then things escape you and you just kind of can't think of them. Okay, so we're going to talk about orangutans. They are Asia's only great ape, and they can weigh up to 100 kilograms, which is about 220 pounds, and their arm span is huge. So some males have an arm span up to 2 meters, which is about 6.5 feet. So their arm span is going to be wider than most grown men are tall, like just huge. And you can see it in this guy. You can just see from their shoulders down and those long arms. And I think that is because they are the heaviest of tree-dwelling animals. So they're spending a lot of time in trees, and they're going to need those long arms to kind of maneuver around up there. There are 3 species, the Bornean, the Sumatran, and there's a recently confirmed Tapanuli. All are endangered, but of the 3, the Bornean have the highest numbers. The Tapanuli have the lowest numbers, and there are only like 80 of them, so very low. All are endangered, like I said. Palm oil is their largest threat. So it's destruction of habitat. They're destroying the jungles to plant palm trees for palm oil is the big threat to these guys, which is very sad. Let's see, any animals endangered, but Borneo definitely has a huge share. So we're going to talk a little bit about conservation at the end. Just a team back. These guys are proboscis monkey, and they're named that for their long nose, which they use to attract a mate. And they use it, the bigger the nose, the better. And also they make a funny noise with their nose.
Marianne?
Yes?
For me, the slide has not changed from the, there it goes.
Now
it is. I'm not sure if it's delayed for anybody else.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, hopefully my internet's okay. It's not storming or anything after last week. Yeah. They are found mostly in mangrove forests and along coastal areas, and they're among the largest of Asia's monkeys. Males can reach about 50 pounds or 23 kilograms, and they live in groups of about 3 to 30, and of course also endangered. This guy is a sun bear. He is the smallest bear, about 70 centimeters at the shoulder, which is about 28 inches at the shoulder, so just kind of medium-sized dog-ish. Weighs 25 to 65 kilograms, which is about 55 to 140 pounds. They get their name from this golden patch on their chest, which they say represents a rising sun. I'm not sure how they see that, but this little like golden patch right here on his chest. They have, and I wish I had a picture of this, they have crazy long tongues. And I'm sure it goes from what they eat, but they have like these huge, long tongues. They generally live solitary.
It's for rooting out insects.
Yes. And honey too. And
honey. Mm-hmm.
And they're listed as vulnerable. Mm. This is a clouded leopard, and it's named for its spotty coat. They are seldom seen in the wild. They're very, very shy and elusive, and there's actually not a lot known about them because they are so shy. They're hard in the wild to actually monitor and learn about. And so what they know about them, they've pretty much learned from captive ones, but they are out there. Just probably won't see any. Their habitat is it's a huge habitat. So they're from the rainforests of Indonesia, so like Borneo area, all the way to the foothills of the Himalayas. So huge area. This is a Sumatran tiger. It's the smallest tiger, and they've been around for 2 million years. Tigers' roar can be heard from 2 miles away, and they live to be around 15 years old in the wild. And you can tell them from other tigers because they have a darker orange in their coat, and the males have kind of this beard and mane. So you can see a little bit of his mane kind of here. Reminds me of very much of the tiger Shere Khan from Jungle Book. When you look at the pictures of the Jungle Book tiger.
Yeah. I see that.
Okay, we'll do a couple of my favorites here. The Sumatran rhino, which is actually, it's kind of sad because this guy is, if not extinct, very, very close right now, which is so sad. They're also known as the hairy rhino or the Asian two-horned rhino. They're the smallest of the living rhinos, but that being said, they're still fairly big. They're 5 feet at the shoulder and weigh 600 to 950 kilograms. So it's 1,300 to 2,000 pounds. And at last they count, there were fewer than 80 in the wild, but they're not sure even now how many there are. Their loss of habitat is one of their big problems. The other is that they're being poached for their horns, which is same with the rhinos in Africa. The horns are worth so much. There's an Asian belief that can be used for medicine, so they're just being decimated for it because of the price. A horn can be worth $30,000 US per kilogram. So it's just the worth of it is so crazy for such poor people that they just, don't take the animals into consideration. This guy is a pygmy elephant, and it's the smallest of Asian elephants. I know, isn't it like the cutest? They have baby faces with oversized ears and a very gentle nature. Lifespan is 60 to 75 years, so pretty much the same as other elephants. They are definitely endangered, and the size, they're about half the size of an Asian elephant. So they're about 8 to 10 feet tall and weigh 6,500 to 1,100 pounds. Very cute. This is a flying fox bat. So the flying fox is among the largest bats in the world. They have a wingspan of over 5 feet, so they're very big. Mostly vegetarian, and they can live in huge colonies up to 200,000 bats. And they're the only true flying mammal. There's some other gliding mammals, but they're the only true flying mammal.
What do you mean sometimes, like vegetarian, or most times?
My guess is they're mostly vegetarian and they eat some insects.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep. Not people then. Like, as long as it's not like carnivorous.
Oh, yes. No. I think they're mostly vegetable or fruits, probably, and just some insects thrown in for good measure.
Okay.
Do you know what this is?
Oh, I can't see with the glare. It looks like it might be a slow loris, though.
It is. Very good. It's one of the world's rarest primates. And even though they're slow, they can travel up to 5 miles in a night.
Wow.
They're definitely a nocturnal animal with big forward-facing eyes and very human-like hands. They even have opposable thumbs. Their movement is said to be similar to a snake because they have several extra vertebrae in their spine. They were thought to be venomous and the only venomous primate, but now the more I read about them, they're actually, it's thought to be an anaphylaxis. So almost like, you know, how people can have a reaction to cats and cat bites, almost like that, but more severe. Because some people don't react at all, and
like
then other people can die from it. Sorry?
So like a peanut allergy.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I guess they have glands under their arm, kind of in the armpit, and they kind of secrete this poison or like
Whatever
liquid
material,
and they take it into their mouth, and then if they bite, they cause this terrible reaction. And with these guys, they are being taken for pets as a problem, which doesn't, I know.
Oh.
But then what they do, and this is horrible, close your ears, you don't want to hear this. They pull or cut their teeth, and then so that they can't bite, and then just have them as these cute cuddly pets, which I also think is awful.
Oh my God.
I promise this whole show is not going to be on like conservation and moral issues, but yes. Okay, so let's just talk briefly about conservation in Borneo, because definitely when you think of Borneo, it's a huge thing. They've got all these endemic animals, all these animals that you're not going to see anywhere else, and they're, you know, losing a lot of their forest for palm oil and wood, and this is getting rid of this habitat, the only habitat that these animals have. Personally, that breaks my heart. I love, anybody that's traveled with me knows that I love traveling for nature, love to see animals in the wild in their habitat, and so knowing that this is happening is I don't like it. So conservation, ways that, you know, can help is to increase tourism, because these people all need to make money. Everybody needs money in this world. You need money to live, to feed your family, to have a house. So when a farmer has a choice, you know, I can cut down all this jungle and plant palm oil, or, you know, or I could find a job in tourism, and all this land that was gonna, you know, be cut down is now a national park, and it's saving the animals. And this kind of conservation we've seen work in Africa. So we know it does work. We know that tourism can be used to save these animals. The other thing is, when you're buying anything, almost everything, so much has palm oil in it. It's almost impossible to stay away from palm oil, but you can just try and buy products that have sustainable palm oil. And how you know is there's a palm oil scorecard. If you just Google that, you'll see, and it lists the companies that use sustainable palm oil versus those that don't, and you can just pick and choose from that and know that you're making a conscious decision to help. Okay, moving on. Our third destination gets just over 1 million visitors per year. 40% of all animal and plant life in the world can be found here. It has over 30 official languages. It has the highest lake in the world. It's often referred to the Tibet of South America, and it contains the world's largest salt flat. We are talking about Bolivia, which is just here in South America, and pretty much in the middle, kind of on the western side. Does not go all the way to its interior a bit, doesn't go all the way to the ocean. And so we're going to talk about just some of the different sites and cool things about Bolivia in general. Of course, we'll start with the salt flats. It's from a prehistoric lake that went dry, and it's left like a desert-like, nearly 11,000 square kilometer landscape. And it's just this bright white salt as far as you can see. There's hardly any wildlife here as it's not really sustainable. But what you will find is a lot of pink flamingos. So you'll see lots of pictures with the salt flats and just like a whole bunch of pink flamingos standing there. And the best way to explore, oops, sorry, my desk. The best way to explore the salt flats is by 4x4 vehicle. And one of the very cool things about the salt flats is in the salt flats, they have salt hotels. The salt hotels are pretty much made completely of salt. So they're carved out of salt, the walls, the ceilings, the furniture, everything. They do need to rebuild these hotels every 10 to 15 years because the rain eventually kind of washes it away. But I, think that's so super cool. This is called the Valley of the Moon. It's just outside of La Paz, and it has been caused by erosion and the type of rock that it is, and just the erosion has just kind of carved away, leaving these tall spears. And there's paths to walk around. There's little paths and bridges and stuff, so you can walk all around it and check it out and take pictures and spend some time. I think that is also different and very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Bolivia has a new and growing culinary scene. They're starting to become a culinary destination. Lots of great restaurants, like Michelin star quality restaurants coming up in La Paz. And they're reinventing traditional Bolivian dishes and upgrading their texture, their balance, the presentation for like a real gourmet kind of event. And so let's look at some of these traditional Bolivian dishes. Some of these, if you've done South America, if you've done like Peru and Chile, and some might be like, oh yeah, I've had something like that. So this is mama con quiche. It's a frisbee-like cheese bread. It looks huge. It looks really good. I'm kind of hungry right now, so everything's gonna look very good. This is called satena. It's a pastry shell and stuffed with chicken or mince. And I am sure everywhere else calls them empanadas. Is that not an empanada? Call
That
it
would be an empanada. Okay.
And this is a sonso. It's the comfort food in the form of yucca and cheese all together and baked or fried. Chicha. If you've been to Peru or a lot of South America. Chicha is a fermented corn drink. It kind of tastes like beer, but not really. I don't know. I think it's a bit of an acquired taste because I have tasted it. I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I could drink this all night, but it does have kind of that beer taste to it. And pica la macho, which is for the day after you've had too much chicha, because this is be great hangover food, I think. It's like their version of poutine. So it's French fries with beef and sausage and eggs and peppers and onions all piled on top. Okay, our number 2 destination. Okay, number 2 gets 871,000 visitors per year. This country has 13 months to a year. They run their calendar a bit different. Their spiritual homeland of the Rastafarian movement. It's also where coffee was first consumed by goat herders. It's believed that this is where humans first originated, and it's the only African country never to have been brought under colonial control. I guess?
I am gonna guess Madagascar.
No. Gotcha.
Oh, Ethiopia. Yeah. Sorry, Ethiopia. We're doing those 2 that year, and I'm like, and yes, Ethiopia. I beg your pardon.
There we go. So Ethiopia, right here in the Horn of Africa, it is also landlocked, so it's not going to reach the ocean, but it's right, it gets fairly close there along the border.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Ethiopia's kind of got a historical and cultural area in the north, and the south is more the tribes, also very cultural, but more like the tribes, the Omo Valley, and that kind of area. So when you do a tour of Ethiopia, if you do the north and the south, you're basically encompassing everything it has to offer. So in the north, you're going to see things like the rock-hewn churches of Lalibela, which is 11 ancient monolithic churches that have been carved entirely out of a single rock with hammers and chisels. They're over 900 years old. And King Lalibela built these churches around Ethiopia's own stretch of the Jordan River. His intent was to welcome Christians to a new Jerusalem. Also in the north, you're going to get the Simien Mountains, which is Simien Mountain National Park. It's got beautiful landscape, just escarpments, deep valleys, high plateaus, tall peaks. The massive erosion over millions of years has caused all these very dramatic peaks. And it's home to some endemic animals like the Simian fox, the Ethiopian wolf, the Walia ibex, and the gelada baboon, which this is a gelada baboon. He's turned around. They're the ones that have that very striking red kind of triangle on their chest.
Yeah, emblem, or
yeah, it might not
I know
be exactly triangle,
yes.
but yes, very striking red mark on their chest. So then you go down to the Omo Valley, and the Omo Valley is where there are some very true tribes that have been very traditional and very interesting. And I don't know how long these tribes are going to be around, because just as the world changes and people grow up in the tribes, they're leaving the tribes and going to a more regular kind of westernized lifestyle. And also the government's taking a lot of land away from them, so they're losing their land and having to move. So it's not, the tribes are a bit in trouble for how long they will continue in their very traditional ways. Right now it's home to 8 different tribes, and the population's about 200,000 for those 8 tribes. this is the Mercy tribe, this first one. The women wear plates in their lower lip. They paint them, and they make these plates out of clay themselves. And it starts when they're around the age of puberty and a little slit, and then they kind of pierce it, and then it just keeps growing, and they just keep putting bigger and bigger plates in to get this like very dramatic plate. They don't wear the plates all the time. It's more a ceremonial type of thing.
Okay.
They also paint themselves. They're very much into very artistic, very, very bright, very, very painted. More paint than clothing. They're not very much, they don't have a lot of clothing. A lot of times it's just the blanket they sleep on. They'll use that draped over themselves, but into adornment. So you can see like earrings and her headdress and the disc in the face. They use their bodies as a canvas.
Mm-hmm.
Another tribe is the Hammer tribe, and they are famous for a bull jumping ceremony. So this tribe, when a man's going to get married, they line up a bunch of cattle in a row, and he has to run across the cattle back and forth like 3 times, and he can't fall. If he falls, he gets horribly ridiculed and has to get up and do it again. He runs naked in across the cattle, and it's got a lot of meaning for them. The cattle is their major part of their lives. These are cattlemen. They have herds of cattle, and so he's going to get married, and it's going to give him a position. He's going to inherit cattle. So, and that is why they do this bull jumping ceremony, which has become quite famous. And I guess they even put on a little bit of a show when tourists come, and give them so much money, and they'll run across the bulls for This is Karo people. They're the smallest tribe in the Omo Valley, consisting of only about 1,500 people. They live on the banks of the Omo River and grow crops, and they fish. They're nomadic, but according to how the river is. So when the river's low, they move closer to the river, and as the river swells, they move a little bit further out. Men and women both decorate their faces and bodies with paint made from chalk. So you can see pictures of them that can be quite dramatic, with their whole bodies painted with the white chalk. This is the Bodhi tribe, and they live also off of cattle farming. And in this tribe, they do bigger is better. So these men, they every year enter a competition. So each family puts up one member of their family, so one young man of their family, and what he does is prepares for 6 months while drinking cow's blood and milk, and doing almost no exercise to get as fat as he possibly can. And then on the day of the ceremony, all the men that have been put forth come out, and they walk around a sacred tree for hours, which is actually very difficult for them because of the heat, and because for 6 months they've done no exercise and just concentrated on getting fat. And now they're walking around a tree for hours. And so, and they'll have women and people helping them and giving them water. And at the end, and it's not really an endurance test, it's more kind of a showing off of themselves to say, look how fat I am. And at the end, they pick the fattest man, and he wins the fattest man prize for the year. Yes.
I wonder what that is. I have no idea what that would be.
I think it's just prestige.
Okay.
The fattest man. And the family said that once they stop preparing for this and just
bragging,
eat normal and get back to regular work, it takes them a few weeks to lose all that weight, and they're just back to normal.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Yeah.
It's easy to put on. It's not easy to take off.
Okay, and we're already at number one. Number one gets about 2,500 visitors per year. They do this on purpose. They want to keep tourism low, and they do this by charging a tourist tax about $250 per person per night. They are the only carbon negative country in the world. There are no traffic lights in this country. They have the highest number of unclimbed mountains in the world. And their gross national happiness is prioritized in the country. Their official measure of progress is gross national happiness, not GDP.
Oh, nice.
And we're talking about Bhutan, which
Bhutan.
is Bhutan, referred to as the Kingdom of Bhutan, which translates to Land of the Thunder Dragon. It's just up below kind of China, by Nepal, above India, in that area. It is a losing my ability to talk. It's a nature lover's dream. So we're going to look at just a few things that are special about Bhutan, and then I'm going to give you 10 little known facts of Bhutan. So yes, so nature just everywhere. It's just a very untouched destination. The country's filled with mountains, monasteries, lots of nature. It's a haven for anyone who loves to hike and trek. However, no climbing of the high peaks. It is forbidden to climb mountains, as that is where the spirits dwell. It is full of beautiful temples and shrines. The Buddhist culture is everywhere, and it's also known as the last Shangri-La. This is probably one of the most famous monasteries in the world. It's the Tiger's Nest Temple, and it's right up on the side of a cliff on the side of the Upper Paro Valley. It was first built in 1692, and it consists of 4 temples with residential accommodations for the monks, and it still serves as a monastery now. You can hike up to this monastery. It's actually quite popular to do. It's a 4 to 5 hour round trip hike, plus then the time you would spend up at the monastery itself. The only way to get up to the monastery is to hike. There's no roads, there's no other way. About halfway up, there is a cafeteria that you can stop and get a refreshment. And also, if you got, say, halfway and thought, yeah, I don't want to climb anymore, then you could just stay at the cafeteria and take pictures from there and wait for the rest of the party to come back down. They say the hike isn't terrible. From this picture, it looks like it would be horrible, but they say it's not terrible, that it is uphill, but it's not super steep. It's kind of meandering uphill. So it's not a terrible hike, and definitely worth it if you can do it, because it's just beautiful and you can have amazing views.
One of our, we can, am I allowed to say this? Well, I'm saying it now. That we can thank one of the ladies who was on one of our other tours, who actually suggested this as a destination, because she's actually done this trek and done the hike up, and described it as long. Like, it's not, you know, that's very doable, but it's not nothing.
No, it's not nothing. No, you're at altitude and you're hiking for 5 hours, so
yeah,
it'll be a challenge, but I just think it's not undoable. It's not, it's not going to be too much that
absolutely, absolutely.
Taking your time, you could get it done. Okay, so let's look at 10 other little known facts about the Kingdom of Bhutan. Number 1, which might not be the best thing to say when you're trying to get people to go somewhere, is the world's most dangerous airport.
The airport, indeed.
Yes, there's only like 17 qualified pilots in the world that can fly into Paro, and it's because of the mountains. That it's just a short little runway, and there's mountains everywhere. So yeah, the airport is considered the most dangerous. And flights only take off during and land during the day. It has the highest unclimbed peak in the world. Oh, sorry. Sometimes my thing flashes down and it catches my eye. Access to the mountain. Sorry?
I'm sorry.
No. Access to the mountain's been prohibited since 1987. Before that, there were many unsuccessful attempts. The first team that tried couldn't even find the mountain because the maps were so inaccurate. Thinking, yeah,
oh dear.
Just see it and walk to it. Maybe. This is a national animal, and it's a takin, which is a goat antelope. Oh, and a goat antelope, and it's endemic to Bhutan. Kirsten will like this. It is illegal to kill anything. All meat is imported, but the government is considering banning it altogether. So this is like a vegetarian, vegan, like perfect place. But the food is very spicy. They like their food very, very spicy. They say chilies are not a spice, but a vegetable.
Oh.
Oh, this.
Oh, okay.
Yes, there are phallic symbols everywhere.
Okay.
They are a symbol of luck and fertility, like even on like children's school walls and stuff. And they all look like this. They all look like it. I saw many drawings of they all look like this.
Okay, wow.
And they believe the Bhutanese believe that they ward off evil spirits. So be prepared.
Okay.
Bhutan has never been conquered, partly due to the inaccessible territory, but also by a lot of smart decisions made along the way by the kings and gurus.
Yes.
It was the last country to introduce television. It was not introduced until 1999, and the first broadcast they had was the World Cup in France. The Bhutanese find it polite to refuse food the first time it is offered. So if they're offered a meal, they'll no. But the second or third time, they will accept it. The national sport is archery, and they still now even maintain an Olympic archery team. So, and that is it. That are our 5 most unusual destinations for 2021. So to recap, we had, see if I can remember them. We had Ecuador, Borneo, Bolivia, Ethiopia, and Bhutan.
Yes. And Bhutan. And Carol McKnight mentioned that I think has said that there are many souvenirs in Bhutan in the shape of the penis. So I guess that's what I'm bringing home from Bhutan.
Yeah, if that's your thing, there you go.
Well, it isn't that much that it's my thing as much as it is their thing.
It's their thing. So
right. Yes. Right.
Just so everybody knows that all these destinations are being offered. That's why there's other even more unusual destinations. These are our top 5 because they're top 5 tours that we offer, or top 5 most unusual tours that we offer for next year for 2021. Right now, all of our tours, pretty much, with some exceptions for 2021, are we're taking bookings without a deposit just because of the travel climate and people being a little unsure about really committing to travel just yet. So giving kind of the world a little bit of time to heal and sort itself out, and then starting in the fall, we'll start taking deposits for the tours. But in the meantime, it's a great time to dream. So you're welcome to find that tour that really touches you and book yourself on it. And I think that is it, unless there's any other questions. Does anybody have any other questions, or would anybody like to raise their hand if they want to
in the chat.
come on and chat? And Anybody? No? No. And thank you to everybody for joining our presentation. We really appreciate it. We hope you enjoyed it. And next week we are, we're
very
doing,
interesting. We have a comment, a very interesting thank you.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. Next week, we're going on a river cruise. We have a special guest speaker from Avalon River Waterways that is going to join us. And she is going to talk to us about river cruising in general and what Avalon does with their river cruises. Of course, we'll have information about how things have changed with the new travel climate. And then she's going to talk specifically about the Tulip Time River Cruise that we have coming up for next year. I think we have a question.
Wonderful.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, it was just thanking us again.
Excellent. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you, Kirsten, for being my co-host and helping me.
You're welcome. Well, thank you. That was fantastic presentation, Marianne. Well put together.
Oh, thank you. And we will hopefully see everybody next week. Have a great week.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.